CEO of the Detroit Economic Club, welcome to today's very special meeting. 92 years of incredible speakers and networking, and that tradition continues today. I especially want to welcome our DEC members. If you're not a member yet, give me 10 seconds to convince you. Your next job, client, prospect, maybe best friend is right in this room. So we invite you to invest in you, join today. You can do it right on our website. Better yet, we'll sweeten the pot. If you want to do it on the way out, we'll give you a free event ticket you can use through the month of June. So as we get started, I hope I did, silence your cell phones so we do not disturb the program. And if you've been with us before, you know we always begin with a pledge of allegiance and a prayer. So please stand and join me as we honor our country. The flag is directly behind me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And kindly remain standing. Our invocation today will be delivered by our good friend, Dr. Jeffrey Drutchess, President of Fish and Loaves Community Food Pantry. Reverend.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads in a moment of reverence and prayer. Oh, gracious God, together this noontime, we gather seeking for our nation and the larger world the best way forward. As war abroad unfolds and domestic dissent grows, we almost don't know what to believe, let alone do. In these troubling times, so much distrust and rancor reign. Yet, deep in our hearts, what we can and do grasp is this. You, dear God, as proclaimed by Holy Writ of many faiths, want better, saner days for us all, so that no woman, man, or child has to live in confusion, chaos, fear, and violent strife. Your desire is that each and all of us should be loving, healthy people, walking with moral integrity, caring for one another, with an abiding commitment to what is compassionate and just. O God, deeply appreciative and thankful for your eternal wisdom and abiding goodwill, we ask with humility your help. As in times past for earlier generations, send your gracious, empowering spirit upon us in a fresh and vital way. Renew in everyone present and those beyond a sense of shared purpose that we might each be inspired to build up rather than tear down or tear apart those human relationships and institutions so essential to our well-being. Above all, keep us mindful as citizens and public servants that the only antidotes for crudeness, rudeness, and meanness that too often despoil our life together lie with mutual kindness, civility, and respect, faithful to you. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. You may all be seated. A couple of quick thank yous to WDIV and Lawrence Tech University for live streaming today's meeting. And a very special thank you to a gentleman you'll see up here shortly, our moderator today, Gary Torgo, for bringing the governor to the DEC and for his constant support of the Detroit Economic Club. Thank you, Gary. So you know, you've been with us before. Students are here today and always courtesy of our generous corporate sponsors. Their morning already included a really cool private reception with the governor. Just hold your applause while I let you in on who is with us today. We've got students from Lawrence Technological University. Welcome. Compliments of Gary and Huntington Bank. Students from Loyola High School, thanks to Joe and the good folks at Aon University Prep High School, brought to you by Brad and the MEDC, and Schoolcraft College, thanks to Lauren and ITC Holdings. Now, give the students and sponsors a worthy round of applause. Thank you. I always want to take a quick moment to thank our corporate sponsors and partners. Make no mistake, they are the reason we can do terrific programs like we do day in and day out. So thank you if you're part of those corporate sponsors. And another item, our seasonal lineup is getting red hot. Next week, we've got David Burritt, CEO of U.S. Steel, with us on March the 12th. A couple weeks after that, if you've never heard Austin Goolsbee, the Chicago Fed Chair, he's fabulous. April 7th. That's just the beginning. Trust me, we've got a lot more coming your way, and I think you're going to be really, really pleased with who we've got coming. I mentioned 92 years of speakers, and those speakers tell the history of our country. And March 4th is a popular date in our history. Governor, you now join 15 others who have graced our stage on this day. A couple of highlights. Think of the year 1940. I don't expect you to know this guy, but a Detroit engineer, John Calder, delivered a speech 1940 titled Russia and World War II. Mr. Calder, you see, played a pivotal role, as I learned, in constructing Soviet industrial infrastructure, specifically overseeing dozens of steel plants and factories in Russia. And that perhaps was the beginning of the industrial buildup for the Soviet Army and a crucial lead up to the conflicts that we saw in the mid-30s. His business partner, interesting fact, Albert Kahn from Detroit. So fascinating stuff when you dig into some of the history. 1991, Larry Kudlow was on our stage. 2013, the great Congressman John Dingell on our stage. And today we're pleased to add you as our 16th speaker, Governor Beshear, on this day in D.C. history. Thanks for being with us and congratulations. All right, last thing, we want you to take lots of pictures, share with your social media networks. All right, on to the program. Jocelyn Benson, of course, is Michigan's hard-working Secretary of State and a very strong gubernatorial candidate for our state. We know her as a fierce defender of democracy. She is a DEC board member, and I'm going to tell you she digs in even though she's got a very, very busy schedule. I can't thank her enough for that and for your personal support. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson.
Thank you, Steve. I was thinking today how grateful I am for this institution. The Detroit Economic Club not only brings extraordinary speakers and has done for decades, but brings us together in a collective, comprehensive way, unified through no matter where we may be on the political spectrum, a desire to learn more, to learn from each other, to meet each other, to build community with each other, because we know we're all in this together for our economy, for our state, for our city. And Steve, you have been a tremendous leader of all of these series of speakers and others opportunities for us to come together. So thank you. It's so great to be with all of you today, and I'm honored to have been asked to come here to introduce today's speaker, a really extraordinarily national leader, and my friend, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. For those of you who have not yet had the chance to hear from or meet Governor Beshear, you're in for a treat. He's an extraordinary speaker, has done a number of innovative things in Kentucky to really grow the economy, and we've got a great conversation planned on all of those things. Now, I just say for a minute about how Kentucky has transformed under his leadership. Kentucky has made record investments in infrastructure, roads, bridges, clean water, high-speed internet, and Governor Beshear has also driven historic economic development throughout the state of Kentucky, attracting thousands of good-paying jobs, forward-looking industries, increasing per capita income in an extraordinary way, and really demonstrating to the nation that governors can do a lot of good to improve our economy and bring people together. And it's not only about what he's delivered, which I know he'll talk about today, but also that he's just committed to getting stuff done. He cuts through the noise, delivers results, no matter the party, no matter the zip code, and that's a great example, I think, for all of us to look to. So I'm excited to hear from him as well, myself, about the best ways that we can attract next-generation industries here in Michigan, create well-paying jobs, increase our per capita income, and build up our middle class. Also joining us today, of course, is a Detroit institution, a Michigan institution like none other, Gary Torgo, the chairman of Huntington Bank, also a great friend and one of the largest employers in our state. Gary's also the founder of Sterling Group, a Detroit real estate and development company, and looking just one block to our west, you will see that way, an important development, right, that way? Yeah. Sterling Group that I had the opportunity to see recently and was just blown away. The beautiful Water Square building right next door to that. We know about the construction of the JW Marriott Hotel, which is already booking 5-10 years into the future and going to generate a lot of economic growth, not just for our city, but for our entire state. So, Gary, I'm grateful for your friendship, your leadership, your moral integrity, and how you have led numerous efforts to support communities all across the state. And in doing all of that, you are a critical advisor to all of us as leaders in the state, many leaders in our state government, civic and corporate leaders, and an example for us all. So thank you for being here today. And with that, please join me in giving a warm welcome, a warm Detroit Economic Club welcome to Governor Beshear and Gary Torgo.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. Got a little water up here for you?
Thank you.
Great. Okay, hello everybody. Great to have you all here. Thank you to Steve and the DEC for another great event. Thank you, Madam Secretary of State, for your great introduction. I know you were up on the stage being asked questions just recently, and I heard it was fantastic. Great to have all of you here today. We're thrilled to have the Governor of Kentucky. Maybe before I get to maybe the hard questions, two maybe easier questions. The first is, your father was the governor of the state of Kentucky. Did you aspire to follow in his footsteps, and did he want you to follow in his footsteps?
Well, my mom certainly didn't want me to follow in his footsteps. Gary, it's always an honor to share stage with you. Thank you for your friendship. To the Detroit Economic Club, this is an honor. Y'all are a big deal. And as a governor of Kentucky, to be invited to be here, it means a lot to me, so thank you. You know, when I was growing up, my dad was in politics. He was the shooting star of the Democratic Party. When I was 2, I think he was Attorney General. When I was 6 to 10, he was Lieutenant Governor. And then at 10 years old, I watched my dad lose a primary that people thought that he'd win. Now, I got my dad back, which was pretty amazing. You know, the next 20 years, he'd be there present, or more present in my life. But I thought that that's what I was supposed to do, because my dad did it. And so throughout high school, I would run for every office and lose badly every time. And I know why now. It's that I didn't have a why. You know, I had a what, I had a thing that I thought I was supposed to do, but I wasn't doing it for a driving reason that both pushed me and that people could see. And so I was done with politics. By the time I went to college, I was going to find my profession. Was going to move forward with my life. And then 2007 rolls around. We'd had a Republican governor who'd had a scandal. I'd moved back to Kentucky, and we were looking for a candidate because, you know, we were still involved. And we couldn't find one to run. And my dad called me one day, and he said, "Andy, if nobody else is going to do it, I am." And I said, "Dad, we've been through this before. I don't want to see you lose again." And he said, "I know what losing's like. I kind of want to see what winning feels like." And I'll never forget, I hung up the phone, and zero infrastructure and the rest. I mean, in his biggest city, his support started out me and my wife. He would actually stay in our house. We were running it on the cheap. But I remember hanging up the phone and looking at her and saying, "He's going to run, and I think he's going to win." And she said, "Why?" And I said, "Because he's not afraid to lose." And so I'm 30-year-old lawyer. I did more free legal work for that man than anyone else in my lifetime. And what got me back into politics is just loving my dad and my mom. And in 87, he loses a race he should win. In 2007, he wins a race that he should have had no business being in. And I got to watch for the next 8 years from a front row seat, from fighting for 5 to 10 jobs during the Great Recession, knowing what that meant, going through some of the most painful budget cuts we'd ever seen, but that's actually about priority. It's not as much about what you're cutting as what you're not cutting. When you don't have a lot, where do you put what you have? And then I think the moment that really hit me is President Obama's elected. The Affordable Care Act is passed. He sets up one of the best-run state health care exchanges in the country, and he expands Medicaid. And so one day we're in an office building, I think in Lexington, and we're on the elevator. And the door opens up. A woman looks at him and bursts into tears. And I kept thinking, I wonder what this is about. When she finally chokes it down, she looks at him and says, "I'm alive today because of you." And he said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I had cancer, and they somehow called it a pre-existing condition. I wasn't getting coverage. And then the ACA passed, you implemented it. I was able to get my treatments, and I am here today cancer-free." And that really hit me that you can do amazing things in these jobs. You got all the macro policy because that was making people healthier all across Kentucky. 600,000 people got coverage that had never had it, but that woman was still alive. Her family wasn't grieving her. She was making memories. I mean, it just, that moment just sticks with me. And so when he was done, I had an opportunity to run for Attorney General. I was a lawyer, and it's a great job. You know, you get to wake up and crusade every day. I had about 220 dedicated people that worked for me. That's just small enough to be able to build a positive culture and get good things done. But I had a governor who was much like our president before our president. Attacked people, brought out the worst. I couldn't put my kids in front of a TV to watch their governor. And given my dad had been one, that hit me pretty hard. And so that's when I decided, well, it wasn't something I ever necessarily wanted to do. I was in a position where I needed to do it, and I've never regretted it. These are jobs that if you wake up every day trying to help people instead of hurt people, you can do really amazing things in your state, and to see where we've come in 6 years is just really special.
I'm sure your family is very proud of you, and that's a great history. So you've been elected.
Oh, I have 2 teenagers. I wouldn't say proud of me.
I did watch a video of you, and your son doesn't think you have any aura.
That's
know
right.
That.
Just wrist.
Yeah, right. So you've been elected 3 times statewide in Kentucky, a state that President Trump also won 3 times, most recently by 31 points. At the same time, you hold the highest approval rating of any Democratic governor in the United States. How have you had so much success in a red state?
So the Democratic governors are close. Gretchen Whitmer is a great friend of mine, and I never ask her how much she won her elections by, because I don't want to compare. But I'd like to think winning re-election in deep red Kentucky by 5 points, the year before Donald Trump won it by 31 points, really means I won by 36 points. I think we can add them together. I get this question a lot, and I think it starts with people aren't as political as we think they are. You know, most people when they wake up in the morning don't have the luxury of thinking about the next election. They're thinking about their job and whether they make enough to support their family. They're thinking about their next doctor's appointment for themselves or their parents or their kids. They're thinking about the roads and bridges they drive each day, the school they drop their kids off at, and whether they feel safe in their community. And recognizing that I wasn't elected to be the Democratic governor of Kentucky, I was elected to be the governor of all of Kentucky. I try to go about my job, and I also run trying to do 3 things. First is my 80-100 rule. I will stand up for all of my convictions. I'll let you know where I am on any issue, but 80% of my time, I'm going to be working on things that matter to 100% of the people of Kentucky. And that's, again, your job, your health care, the infrastructure that we use every day, the education that you or your kids are getting, and public safety in all of its forms. When we do that, when we spend 80% of our time on that, we don't move a state to the right or the left, we just move it forward. And the great part is we move it forward for everyone. I think about last year. We had our highest average incentivized wage for a new job in our history, $30 an hour. Now, people are filling that are Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and it's better for all of them. So 80% of my time on things that matter to 100% of the people in my state. The second thing I try to do is talk like a normal human being. You know, that's not necessarily the norm in politics right now. But if you want to inspire confidence, you can't talk at people, and you can never talk down to people. You have to talk to people, and you have to listen. I think one challenge in the Democratic Party especially is that advocacy speak has crept into our language and our lingo, and it makes us sound like we're from a different planet. I mean, it's even really meaningful, emotional things, like losing someone to an overdose. You know, in Kentucky, we got hit by the epidemic harder than most. We've all lost people, multiple people to overdoses. I didn't lose one to substance use disorder. I lost them all to addiction. Addiction is, you say it, you can feel it, can't you? It's that mean, nasty killer that took people from us. Or if you are able to get through it, if you are going through treatment and then on the other side, you deserve credit for going up against that really difficult adversary. I want to thank our pastor for his prayer today and for what he does. If we want to stop the snap cuts that are going to cause millions of people in the United States to lose their food benefits, we can't say that they're food insecure, right? They're going to go hungry. And the last thing I'd say is maybe the most important is when you're in a position like this, you can't just be about the what, that's your policy. You also have to be about the why. What is it that drives you? What gets you up every day willing to deal with politics as it is right now? Why are you willing to run into a brick wall over and over and over, believing that one day it's going to fall? For me, it's my family and my faith. It's the golden rule that says, I love my neighbor as myself, and the parable of the Good Samaritan that says, everyone is my neighbor. It's that driving force to use faith to do good, to help people instead of to hurt people. And when I make decisions that some people might not agree with, at least I can communicate it in a language that they understand and feel, and maybe we can create the grace and the space to disagree, but to still be willing to come together and get things done. That was a long answer to a short question.
That was a great answer. Thank you. Governor, you mentioned faith, and I know that you've got a new book coming out that's called Go and Do Likewise. And it's a book about reclaiming faith and doing good in public service. You've never been shy in your whole career about talking about faith. Can you go a little further into your faith and why it is so important to you and what you're trying to accomplish with the new book that you're writing?
So my faith is my authentic why. And I could say whether it's for people in politics or life, it can be any faith. It can be values that you were raised with. It can be something that you were a part of or witnessed that now drive you. I just think it's important, especially with all the division that's out there right now, that's all about the what's colliding, to try to get beyond that and to the why. The birth of my children were miracles, changed my life forever, gave me a level of purpose that I did not have before, and they deserve a better world than they're living in right now. And if I have the ability to make that better world, to do anything about it, to get up every day just trying to fight the chaos a little bit, it is worth it because of what I was blessed with. I had a moment where I realized the Good Samaritan is real. Kentucky's gotten hit by disaster after disaster after disaster since I've been governor. Tornadoes, floods, mass shootings, helicopter crashes, plane crashes. We've had 15 weather disasters alone in the last 6 years. Our worst flooding occurred in 2022. It's in eastern Kentucky. It killed 45 people and then just ruined houses. And if you've been in a house after a major flood, it is caked with mud. And I'm in Whitesburg, that's in eastern Kentucky, and I'm in a home watching a woman work furiously to get the mud out. If you don't get the mud out, you can't dry it out, and then the mold starts growing, and that's the end of your home. And she is working as hard as she can, and I make this assumption. I say, it must be really hard to see your home like this. And she says, oh, this isn't my home. It's my neighbor's. And I made another wrong assumption. I said, oh, it must feel good to have your home mucked out. She said, we hadn't started. We decided to start with my neighbor. I mean, just seeing how good people are when we push all the rest of it out. Seeing her, Alyssa, who's now shown up in my life about 10 other times when I have not expected it, I thought was in the very least a calling for us to be better. And then I saw people manipulating faith. I saw them using it to harm people instead of to help people. My pastor once said, you know when your faith has been hijacked, when suddenly your God hates all the same people that you do. So instead of challenging us to be better, to include more, to love more, I see it being used for the opposite. And I don't want to see that in our life. And I think that whether it's faith or values, it is a path to bringing this country back together, to trying to speak to each other instead of across from each other. So go and do likewise. By the way, available for pre-order wherever you buy your books. It's not a typical memoir. I don't go back and complain about my childhood. I had amazing parents, and none of us are perfect, but they did enough for me to where I would never write a negative word in a book. But it is about things we've gone through, especially as a state, things I've gone through, how faith helped me, but also how I see it being similarly misused, especially right now on the federal level.
Our Secretary of State wrote a great book, and we'll send you a copy. It's got a lot of the same themes. So
I got turned down for my first 2 books.
She didn't.
Oh. Meanwhile, my dog has published 2 coloring books. So,
Governor, your economic development track record is really impressive in Kentucky. Under your leadership, Kentucky has had 4 of the best years of private sector investment in its history. You mentioned that average wages are at an all-time high. What's your approach to economic development, and why are businesses turning to Kentucky to grow from all over the country?
it's really exciting. You know, I come from a state that people used to look down on that are now looking up to, a state that people used to view as a flyover state because you took our Northern Kentucky hub and it became Detroit for Delta. But you know, it's amazing to have been a part of the best years for private sector investment, record numbers of new jobs, our first, third, fourth, and fifth best year for new wages. We just broke our export record for our third year in a row, over $50 billion of exports, and that is in spite of tariffs, not because of them. We've broken our tourism record for 3 straight years. And let me tell you, when you're bringing that type of opportunity, what happens is the temperature gets turned down. People start acting less political. They start getting along a lot better because they see not only their life getting better, but when their life gets better, they also want their neighbor's life to get better. Our approach to economic development is, number one, it is a team sport. If I'm working with a Republican county judge, they deserve just as much credit when we land those jobs. Number two, it's urgency. You know, if we have a chance to bring in new jobs that can change a community, jobs like in Bell County, we've got to want them as quickly as possible. It's the idea that everybody loves the announcement and then laughs at the ribbon cutting. But that's backwards, right? The announcement's the hope, the groundbreaking is the progress, but the ribbon cutting is the reality where all those jobs are there. People's lives are actually changed. Communities are going to be better off because of it. So when you're looking at Kentucky, our commitment is we'll get you up and running faster than any other state. What does that mean? It means our environmental permitters are going to make sure that we follow all the regulations, but they're going to work with you on how to do that instead of simply look at an application and deny it. Same as our building code inspectors, and if the area that they're in can't handle it, we will send our state building code inspectors. Large projects, the CEOs of those companies have my cell phone number. Because if we hit delays, I want them to be able to call me and to get it back on track because I want those jobs as quickly as possible. We have an investment fund where we want our sites to not just be shovel ready, but build ready. So what do we do with a site that's out there? We spend a little money to run water and sewer. What's the electric capacity? How does the access road look? Does it need a natural gas line? And every announcement we do is great, but there's one less site. And so we look for the next one and the next one. And so that's the hustle that goes, that every great announcement that you have is more work that you need to keep going. And so in Kentucky, we now have more manufacturing jobs than at any time since 2006. So manufacturing on the decline nationally, it's increasing in Kentucky. And I will tell you, the biggest challenge in that are tariffs. So we were reshoring before, and tariffs have slowed down economic development all over the U.S. And I'll just give you an example. If we want to reshore something we don't make right now in the U.S., where do we get what we need to build that facility? We've got to import it. And that means everything that it takes to reshore a facility right now is that much more expensive because of tariffs. What we saw is that the incentives worked really well, though it wasn't fast enough. The tariffs can add about 30% to your project. So if you got a $100 million project, you may be able to finance that. 130, that's a bit more challenging.
So, Governor, you're
But if they go to Huntington Bank.
Absolutely. Glad you mentioned that. Governor, you're the chair of the Governors Association, and I think your vice chair is our great Governor, Gretchen Whitmer. And you're also, I presume, following basketball, so you know the new big rivalry is Michigan and Michigan State, right? You're aware of that? And the Pistons, how are the Pistons doing? Amazing, right? So our great governor was elected after campaigning to fix the damn roads, and infrastructure has been a major focus of your work as governor. Can you talk a little bit about the infrastructure work in building bridges and broadband and improved utilities all over Kentucky and how you've done it?
Gretchen is a great friend, and she was 1,000% right. And she was right on infrastructure before anybody else was. And you've probably heard her story when she's outside the emergency room talking to a family, and she says, what can we do? And that's what she said, fix the roads, because it took them longer to get to the emergency room. We don't place enough value on our roads, our bridges, water. I mean, in Kentucky and everywhere, we still have people in the year 2026 that don't have running water. So we used ARPA money, ran new lines to so many different communities. I watched a woman and her mom turn on their faucet for the first time, where it wasn't coming from a well, it wasn't coming from a tank, and you ought to have seen the look in their face. Something we take for granted every day. It was like a miracle from God that had occurred that day. When we think about roads and bridges, we built a road in eastern Kentucky called the Herald to Many. In eastern Kentucky are the Appalachian Mountains. So if you don't have a new road, you may have to go around 2 mountains. It cut 30 minutes off people's commute each way. That is an hour more with your family. Just to see how profound that was with the 1,000 people who showed up when we dedicated that road. And by the way, in re-election, we sent all of them a postcard to remind them who'd helped make that happen. And I will say, elections ought to be more about what you can see, feel, and touch. That people have the receipts, that they've delivered. Here's how your life is a little bit better. Here's how we've made it just a little bit easier. We had a road that connected two communities, a bridge, Owensboro and Henderson, called the Spotsville Bridge. But it was really old, and it couldn't take the farm equipment coming across it. It wasn't big enough. When we rebuilt that bridge, it saved an hour and a half from what people would have to do to sometimes move goods. So these are a part of our everyday life. I have a new driver. I think about him every time he's on the road. The more we do on safety on them, the better that they are, the more likely our family members come home. So Gretchen was right. She was first, but thankfully she's led not just here, but she's led nationally on that issue.
So you mentioned that Kentucky has repeatedly been hit by natural disasters. You've had tornadoes and floods and taken a lot of lives and wiped out a number of communities in Kentucky. Can you discuss your rebuilding efforts and update us on where they stand in those areas today?
We have been hit more over 6 years than I can find anybody getting hit in the last several dozen years. And while I wish I knew why it was always us, what I can say is our people have been amazing in the response. I've now stood in front of hundreds of destroyed homes or businesses, and the person who'd worked so hard, maybe a decade, to build what they had, always say the same thing. They're looking at the chaos and they say, where do I start? But every time there's about a dozen people standing around them saying, why don't you start with us? I'm proud of the work that we've done, but the work that our people do to care for each other. You know, if you start losing faith in this world or humanity, just watch how people act after a natural disaster. You don't see the chaos that I think this president would expect to see. You don't see dog eat dog. You don't see people looting. You see people helping each other, not caring about a political party, not caring about views on any types of issues. You just see people helping each other. And that inspired us to, especially in eastern Kentucky, embark on what I think is the most ambitious rebuilding effort in our country's history. We are moving people from the hollers, those are the valleys, where it floods too much, on top of our mountains, on top of abandoned coal mines where the mountain has been flattened. We are running brand new infrastructure up there. We are going to have thousands of homes, entirely new communities with high-speed broadband on every single one. We're building affordable housing with solar panels where the average electric bill will be $50 a month, affordable to buy, affordable to live in. By the way, $1 million views of all the mountains around. But we're actually doing something that addresses our housing crisis while at the same time helping people who've been through something really traumatic. We'll have a documentary on streaming services, I think in about a month, called Rising, that tracks both the strength of our people, but also this amazing initiative. And I will say that FEMA and HUD are absolutely critical, and those dollars are critical. As we get hit more and more, we could not do this on our own. It's both the dollars that come into our families from individual assistance through FEMA, as well as the HUD funds that come too late and after. Putting them together would help. But those are the dollars that let us transform communities. In Western Kentucky, where we got hit by tornadoes, we actually figured out a way to run HUD money through our Affordable Housing Trust Fund that leverages 9 private sector dollars for every 1 public sector dollar. And we announced the largest single investment in housing, about $250 million, all throughout Western Kentucky. So there are ways to both bounce back in rebuilding and address the housing crisis. And if I can quickly, housing is a crisis. It's a crisis not just in the fact that we don't have enough, but people are losing faith in the American dream because of housing prices. You know, the American dream starts with a job, but it lives in a home. I got to buy my first house with my wife at 28 or 29. The average age right now is 40. We cannot continue, right, to be the exceptional country that we want to be if we don't significantly increase the housing supply and make it affordable again. And we can throw stones at both parties on how we got here, but the answer is we need more investment. We need to make sure we right-size regulations so it can move forward, and we need people to accept all types of housing in their community. That's the only way we help that next young couple afford their first home like we were able to.
Okay, we're on a very strict time schedule. You're watching that there, so I'm going to go through 2 more questions for you. The first is kind of international. The U.S. has attacked Iran over the weekend, bringing our country into a conflict overseas, a very serious conflict. What's your reaction to the strikes, and what's your message to those who might be concerned about where we might be heading in the weeks and the months ahead?
Well, I think we can start this conversation by recognizing 2 things. One, the American military is exceptional, and whether we agree or disagree with the decision makers and what they choose supporting those troops, the 6 of which who were killed were under the command of Fort Knox. That's Kentucky. We didn't know if they were Kentuckians until this morning. The first 4 identified aren't, but Kentucky stands with each and every one of those families. The second thing we can recognize is we shouldn't feel sorry for this Iranian regime. They murdered tens of thousands of people. They have sponsored terrorism all over the country. They are bad guys. But the president, if he is going to engage in war, must earn the faith of the American people and must go to Congress. He needs to make his case to us, to you, about dragging the United States into a foreign conflict. Why and why now? And he needs to go to Congress and include them too. It concerns me that the rationale seems to be changing by the day. Marco Rubio goes up and gives a rationale, and the president disputes it a minute later. And all this is in the context that this country has been through a lot in Afghanistan and Iraq. It was my friends, my generation, that went over and came back very different. And the United States, I don't think, is ready for another Iraq or Afghanistan. So what is the mission? The fact that they haven't clearly told us what success looks like. Do we have a plan on day 2? And shouldn't Iraq and Afghanistan have told us that, yes, you can have a major military victory on day 1 or month 1, but what comes after? If it's regime change, is that possible in the way that this regime is set up throughout their society? If it's their ballistic missiles and their Navy, then what does success look like, and who runs the country afterwards? If it's the funding of terrorism or the concern of nuclear weapons, which he told us he annihilated several months before, remember, those are the 2 reasons we ended up in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I want to give respect to him as a commander-in-chief, but as President of the United States, who had a State of the Union just days before, that he could have talked to the entire country about, he owes us so much more if he's going to put the friends and families in harm's way that he has.
Okay, the last question. The Detroit Economic Club loves big announcements on the stage. I know you're not prepared for a big announcement, but tell us what you have as a vision for the future of our country.
My big announcement is Go and Do Likewise is available for pre-order wherever you buy your books. Listen, we have two major challenges in front of this country right now: our level of division and the belief that the American dream is no longer attainable. And who leads this country next is going to inherit a federal government burnt to the ground, but still is going to have to get immediate results for people so they believe that the American dream is still attainable, as well as heal this country. I don't have any announcement to make today, but I will say in 2023, I walked off the stage after my re-election, looked at my wife and said, we never have to run a political race ever again. And I meant it, because being governor is enough, it's special, but I'm not sure that that's true today. While I don't know what my future will be, I refuse to leave a broken country to my kids or anybody else's kids and grandkids. I got to grow up in a stable United States of America, and everybody else deserves to grow up in that too. And wouldn't it be nice if you could go on vacation and turn off the news for a couple days?
Governor, we love your vision. We appreciate so much what you're doing in Kentucky. We love the fact that you came to Michigan. We're very proud of what the Detroit Economic Club brings to us, to be able to see great people like you. A great round of applause for the Governor of Kentucky. That's great.
Well, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Governor Beshear. Really appreciated and enjoyed the conversation. And now I'm going to read a few audience questions for you, Governor Beshear, that were submitted prior to our discussion today. There are a bunch of them, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. But I wanted to pick up on what you were talking about the American dream. I know you met with some of our youngest members and aspiring entrepreneurs here earlier today, and this came up as well. So I'm curious, noting that, and I see this in Michigan, a lot of young Americans have lost faith in the American dream, and I'm curious what your message is to them about how they can be a part of defining the dream in the future.
Well, my message is we need to lead every single day by ensuring that that dream is possible. It starts by creating jobs with better wages. We talk about affordability, the cost of everything, and we can and we should work to bring those down, starting with rolling back so many of these tariffs. 90% of all this billions of dollars the president talks about has been paid by American families. $1,700 on average, a family that's already struggling to get by. And so as we look at better jobs, if we look at a higher minimum wage, we start addressing that day-to-day affordability and the ability not just to pay for your groceries at the end of the week, but to be able to take your kids on that same vacation that you went on. We need to make an aspirational investment in housing. We've got to catch up quickly, otherwise entire generations will be left out if we do it piecemeal or if we do it a little at a time. Remember, the American dream is about a long life where you raise your kids and then spoil your grandkids. If we eliminate rural health care like the big ugly bill is going to do, if we do not invest to make sure you can see a doctor in your own community, the American dream will not be the same or possible in many places. And so I believe that we've got to spend that 80% of our time on those things that matter to 100% of people, and we've got to listen to these young people. So we had you on the podcast. Thanks for coming on. We also have listening sessions on it. We've had high school students, college students, and 20-somethings. And to hear from them, you know, what's the straw that's breaking the camel's back? What are the challenges that you see today? How does social media influence you? Where do you get your news? Knowing that they're growing up in a totally different world that, by the way, is harder than the one I grew up in, but that we also have to listen to them if we want to understand, and they're going to come to the table with as many good ideas as we are.
That's great. You know, you mentioned aspirational in rebuilding the future, and you talked about healthcare, rural healthcare as well.
Yeah.
Big issue in our state, and I know in many states, especially with the changes at the federal level. So with healthcare being this national issue, what can a state do? What are your thoughts on what is necessary nationwide, but even more so, what can be done in a state by a governor to actually ensure healthcare is truly affordable and accessible to everyone in every zip code?
So what's coming over the next several years, if we don't undo that big ugly bill, is going to be devastating. It's going to be devastating to rural communities. It's going to be devastating to urban communities. Healthcare is mainly personnel. And if you cut $1 trillion that's going into it, a whole lot of people are going to lose their jobs, but it's worse than that. So our Kentucky Hospital Association analyzed the bill. And let me say, our Kentucky Hospital Association, they're not a bastion for liberalism. So they reviewed it, and they talked to their members. And right now, Kentucky's at risk of 35 rural hospitals closing. Wow. 20,000 healthcare workers losing their jobs. 200,000 Kentuckians losing their coverage. But if you understand rural economics, you know that each of those rural hospitals is the largest payroll in their community. And if you take all those dollars out of the community, it's not just the hospital that closes. It's the restaurant, the coffee shop, the bank. Dear God, no, not the bank. The insurance company. I mean, it will gut rural communities. And I say this fighting for the reddest parts of my state. Why? Because these are my people, and I want them to be able to grow up and work in the same community if they so choose. It is really important that we reverse it before too much damage is done. And I'll tell you, you're already seeing it mainly in delivery services. You're seeing them close all over the country. We lost one in Lincoln County, Kentucky, and now a pregnant woman is going to have to drive an hour and a half to give birth. Think about that. That shouldn't happen in 2026 in the United States of America. So I proposed a budget that had a big rural hospital fund. I'm trying to get it through my legislature, but we can't make up for the hole that is coming. And that rural health transformational fund was sold to us as a rural hospital fund. It's not being used that way. It's being used in ways that hopefully we can still deliver health care in some ways, like telehealth. But remember, if you're in rural America and you're using telehealth, it means your doctor isn't living in your own community. It means those jobs are no longer in that community. It means that rural hospital has still closed, and the impact to the community is felt throughout it.
True. They're employers and key health providers. It's not lost on me that right now I think governors have never been more important to demonstrate the ways in which government can truly impact and improve people's lives and move the needle, not just in your own states, but I think in collaboration with others. So I'm curious if you found as a governor opportunities to collaborate effectively, even across the aisle, with governors in neighboring states or in other states. And to that end, curious about what are some key areas where Kentucky and Michigan can increase their interstate cooperation in the next decade?
Well, when I look back, I became governor, and I walked in. I haven't been attorney general and litigated with or against the previous Governor Bunch, having watched my dad do this for 8 years. And I thought, I know more about this job than anybody who's ever walked into it. And 3 months later, the pandemic hit. It's pretty humbling. But during the pandemic, especially initially, we saw a lot of cooperation. So to my north, I had 2 Republican governors, Mike DeWine and Eric Holcomb. Mike's still there. Eric's successor is Mike Braun. And we would talk every week. We knew that we needed the best policies, but also the most people that would follow them, and we tried to keep them in line. This is Democrats and Republicans trying to work together, knowing that when we were trying to keep people safe and people were trying to keep each other safe, we needed similar rules. So the Democrat and the Republican went right out of the window. I have a Republican supermajority in my legislature, but I still sign the vast majority of bills that come to my desk because most of them aren't partisan. Most of them are meant to help people or to make an important change, and I'm the one that then has to go and execute on that law. So I think what divides us is really the smallest fraction of what goes on in government and what should go on in politics. But the problem is where we put it. We put it first. Right? We argue about everything we disagree with first, and we get so mad at each other, it's hard to work together on the things we agree on. Instead of doing all the things we agree on, and then fighting about what's left over. And if we could just get to a point where the 85% that we agree on we did first, we probably feel so good about what we're doing, we could at least be civil with each other on the things we disagree on. We share a great auto industry. And parts come back and forth through Michigan and Kentucky, and I think we're better off together. I know we compete for all these projects, but when one of them comes to one state, the auto parts suppliers in the other states have more business. And so making sure that we view this as a plus, that cooperation gives us more than competition. And we're starting to see that more and more with a lot of states, especially for projects on our borders. I mean, if you have a project on the border of Michigan and any of your bordering states, it's going to employ people from both sides. So we're actually working with Ohio right now. They are offering incentives from Ohio for a business that we may locate in Kentucky. That'd be the first time we've seen it.
Huh, that's a great example. Great
credit
idea.
to them.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And now we get to move to what my favorite part of these discussions are, which is the lightning round. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and Governor Beshear, we're going to keep your answers short, sweet, quick, to the point. We got about 5 minutes here. And first, Kentucky Derby. We haven't talked about that yet. How many Kentucky Derbies have you been to, and what was your favorite memory from going to one?
So I've been to about 30 Kentucky Derbies. Yeah, I'm a Kentuckian. I started out going to the Derby and sitting on bleachers that they would pull out.
Were you like 2 when you started?
I was the first Derby I went to, I think I was 8.
Oh, wow.
My favorite experience is there was a long shot when my dad was governor that never thought they'd get to a Derby. First Derby horse they'd ever had, never thought they would ever make it to the Derby again, didn't think they'd be in the top 10, and they won. But they'd been having fun that day. And so by the time they got to the winner's circle, they were as drunk as I've ever seen a group of people. And I looked at one of them and I said, you know, you have to talk to a live TV audience of millions of people. And he said, what do I do? And I said, keep it as short as you can.
Well, another thing we didn't touch upon is sports, especially basketball. And I'm curious, how does it feel to have Michigan State and University of Michigan be better at basketball than Kentucky right now?
Wow. It's a strange year in Kentucky. Now, normally what you get as governor is they say, okay, are you for UK or U of L? And I finally figured out the right answer if you're in my job. What I say is, as governor, you have 2 jobs to do when it comes to basketball. Number 1, to root for your in-state schools, and number 2, to root against Duke.
Fair point.
It's a good answer.
We can all agree on that.
I will say Jamal Mashburn, almost on his own, took the Fab Five to overtime.
There you go. So let's talk about family, too. I know you've got a big one, multiple generations in public service. Who's the most popular person in your family?
Oh, my dog, Winnie. No question. Everybody always says, why doesn't your dog have her own Facebook page? And I say, because nobody would look at mine. By far.
Yeah, I'm a dog owner. Same. I hear you. Lots of things you're good at. We talked about today. A lot of great successes in Kentucky. What about something that you're not so good at, or that you could maybe be better at?
I am a terrible singer. Anything that relates to music, I am awful at. Now, I can remember the words to just about every 90s rap or country music song. But singing.
Is there one you want to try out here today?
But when in my family, music has been really big. My granddad, great-granddad, and great-great-granddad were all ministers. And so my granddad taught his 5 children, including my dad, how to sing. And, you know, one was a soprano, one was the alto, dad was the bass. And anyways, they would sing at weddings, they would sing it at funerals, and this was Baptist back in the day where that was almost footloose, them singing at all those. But it definitely skipped a generation. And I'll never forget, we're sitting on their front porch, and all the family would come in, and they'd sing hymns. And I tried a few times, and my granddad, who was pretty funny, he said, Andy, the Lord likes when everyone sings, but he really loves when you hum.
On that note, do you have a go-to karaoke song?
I once got tickets to a Democratic National Convention by singing Don't Stop Believing Journey.
There you go. Not bad.
Well. I think it was the
message.
courage to do something you're terrible at.
Indeed. Well, on that note, also, I loved coming on your podcast. It was great discussion. And one of the things that you asked me in your lightning round was, what's your secret superpower? I love that question. So now I want to throw it back to you, Governor. What's your secret superpower?
So I always ask this because it's something that you're good at that no one knows about. And some people have really great secret superpowers. Amy Klobuchar doesn't need a lot of sleep. I wish I had that superpower. Other people that I didn't know are marathon runners. And I'm thinking, how do you do the jobs that you do and are able to do this? Mine is only good one day a year. I cook a Thanksgiving turkey better than anyone I know. So once a year, I do this. The secret is the brine. is the citrus brine. You got to do it for about a day. You can't let the turkey get dry in the oven, which means you got to constantly open it and baste it. If you don't set off at least one fire alarm while you're cooking a Thanksgiving turkey, it will not be as good as it otherwise can be. But I have that secret superpower that works one day a year.
I love it. Great. Well, one last question. Who's your favorite governor to work with, and why is it our governor, Governor Whitmer?
I am chair of the Democratic Governors Association. Gretchen Whitmer is my vice chair. She is a fantastic governor, a fantastic friend. She gets things done. I'm proud to call her my fellow governor. And I'm going to be back in April at the dinner honoring her, 8 years. 8 years of great service. I'm at 6. Gretchen Whitmer is a really special person and a really special governor, and I'm about to see her in about an hour and a half.
Wonderful. Well, tell her we all said hello, and look forward to seeing you back here in Michigan in April. Governor Beshear, Gary Torrio, thank you both for this really great discussion. And Steve, I'll turn it back to you.
Outstanding.
All right, folks, Governor Beshear, thank you so much for being here. Next time you come, bring a turkey with you, because the proof is in the pudding. So
we'll cook it on stage.
I love it. Thank you. Gary and Jocelyn, thanks for your important roles today and for all your support. Ladies and gentlemen, just a quick announcement. We're going to invite you to a strolling lunch downstairs, but we're going to ask you to use these center doors in back of you. Your jackets are back there as well. So tell your friends and colleagues to join the Detroit Economic Club. We're a cool group of people, on time every time. This meeting of the DEC is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.